Hi folks, happy Friday to you. Welcome to the weekend, and I trust that you've been able to get some good reading done during the week. And on that topic, what have I been reading? On audiobook, I read Timelike Infinity, and this is the second book in Stephen Baxter's Zeely sequence. Although, if I remember right, it's actually the first to mention the Zeely. I don't recall a mention of them at all in Raft, the first book. Anyhow, we're a few thousand years into the future and humanity has had its wings clipped. After a period of expansion into the galaxy, bit of interstellar trading, humanity has been boxed back into the solar system, onto Earth really, by the quacks, or the cacks. The cacks sounds a little bit more serious than the quacks, if I'm completely honest. But anyway, they're a bizarrely alien species, very unduck-like, intent on exploiting our planetary resources and us poor old humans to boot. So the quacks, or the cacks, and their living and very powerful spaceships have long been our overlords. And in the pre-quacks era, I can't help saying quacks, in the pre-Cax era, the Interface project towed a wormhole out into the stars at near light speed, leaving one end in orbit around Jupiter. The Cax destroyed that end, but the tow ship that took the wormhole out in the first place returns 1,500 years later with the wormhole. There's a secret cabal of humans, the Friends of Vigna, and they've managed to construct an odd sort of spaceship under the noses of the Cax, and they head through this wormhole back to the pre-Cax solar system. The big question obviously being, can humanity use this opportunity, now that they're forewarned, to head off the Cax invasion? And can the Cax exploit the same wormhole to prevent this, and so on? And what paradoxes might result? This is not a straightforward book. There's a lot of jumping around between eras, and it's a little bit of a job to keep up. And it's Stephen Baxter, so there's a lot of rock-hard sciencey stuff going on in this book. The Friends of Vigna have a very, very long-term project in mind. They believe that at any one time, the universe is a giant quantum superposition with all possibilities for all states existing simultaneously. And they believe that this will persist until the universe ends, until specifically Timelike Infinity. And at that point, the ultimate observer will then choose which of these possibilities, these realities, these superpositions is best. And at that point, the whole superposition thing will collapse and only one timeline will remain. And the Friends of Vigna want that timeline to be the one in which humanity thrives the best, which all sounds great, but who gets to be the ultimate observer? And Baxter, of course, supplies the answer at the end of the book. I did enjoy the mad science and the crazy time dilation effects in the book, and the truly aliens. And one of the main characters in Timelike Infinity is Michael Poole, who also pops up in a number of other books of Baxter's. 200 years old, he's accompanied on his journeys in this book by a virtual of his estranged father, the three-dimensional and very realistic image of which is much more youthful than Michael is himself. And I thought that the dynamic between the two of them was fun. Some of the plot centres on one human administrator in the Cax era as he visits with the Cax governor in orbit, and he seems to be very on board with the Cax dominance, although through the verbal sparring between them that we find that in fact it's less of a quizzling than it first appears. I read Raft, as I mentioned, the first book in the Zeely sequence earlier in the year, and while I did enjoy that, it was Baxter's debut novel. I preferred Timelike Infinity. It's a more serious book. It's on a much grander scale. From a hard science fiction perspective, I think that Baxter compares very well with Greg Egan, who's an author that I have struggled to read. But I think in this case, unlike Egan's books, the plot does not get lost in amongst all of the sciencey stuff. So if you want your head to hurt just a little bit, to be challenged by the science but really engaged by the story, then Timelike Infinity I think is a classic of its kind, and I thoroughly recommend it. Next, I read The Wilding by Ian McDonald, which is couldn't be more different to the Stephen Baxter book that we just looked at. And arguably, it's quite different to Ian McDonald's usual fare, certainly of anything of his that I've read so far. The Wilding is folk horror, I think, rather than science fiction. And in this book, we're in Ireland at Loch Harrow, which is the site of a former industrial extraction operation, which has scoured the bog to the bedrock for peat for use as fuel in homes and power stations in Ireland over many, many decades. And but in recent years, over a number of years, the area has been allowed or managed really back to something like its former self. It has been rewilded. Lisa is the main character. She has a somewhat shady past as a driver for Dublin drug gangs. And after doing some community service at the rewilding, she is now an employee. And the setup for this book is that a Dublin school group is arriving for wholesome adventures in the wilding, an outdoor sleepover deep in the bog. And they're a typical moany bunch of teenagers. They're surly, cynical, withdrawn, defensive, argumentative, cocky and troubled, and sometimes all of the above. And with a few of their teachers and a couple of the Wilding staff, led by Lisa, they head off into the bog for their camp. But there have been strange reports, sightings. Farm animals have been slaughtered by what the farmers insist are wolves. They have been introduced by the tree huggers that run the rewilding. But sounds are emanating from the deep bog. Something is stirring. So this sounds like a perfect location for a school trip, right? And like any good horror movie, the group, the teachers, the staff, the teenagers, none of them are safe, are gradually picked off by an eldritch mix of horrors. There's ancient Irish megafauna that's no business being in 21st century Ireland, and stranger creatures still. And it's left to Lisa, who's really not much older than the children herself, to lead them out of danger. Their phones and their GPSs don't work, and even their paper maps are just unreliable. They get turned around. The very ground that they walk on is treacherous. It's a bog, after all. It's getting dark, and being Ireland, it's now raining hard, and the group is cold, wet and hungry and badly equipped. Something ancient, something dangerous has been buried deep for centuries, and now it's back. The bog and the plant life within seem almost sentient, conspiring to herd the group away from the edge, away from safety. And I thought that Ian McDonald does a great job building the sense of dread and fear. What is it exactly that's out there in the bog? And what do the weirdos from the repopulated village nearby have to do with it? Lisa is a great character, but 2 or 3 of the kids are also really well drawn, with hidden strengths and mental resources that become key to the group's survival. The Wilding is not the sort of book that I would normally read. As I said, it's really not science fiction, but it is Ian McDonald, and he's an automatic buy for me, and I'm certainly glad to have read it. And I gather Ian's next book will be back on familiar science fiction territory, back on the moon once again, in a prequel to his Lunar trilogy. And that's all I read this week. I just managed to get the 2 books, a more sort of normal level of reading, I suppose. Tell me, what have you read this week? Is there anything that you particularly recommend, or anything that you'd like to let us know about that we should avoid? Do let us know in the comments down below. Channel stuff next then, briefly. Subs are at 6,463, which is up 38 on last week, if my sums are correct. And if you're one of those 38, or if you've just stumbled across my channel for the first time today, a huge welcome to you all. My name's John, and I focus on collecting, reading and waffling on about science fiction books, old and new. Comment of the week this week was from Tagashi Tamagawa, who commented on my most viewed video, my top 10 hard science fiction books, which is still getting between 100 and 200 views a day, every day. Anyway, Tagashi points out that since 1970, when Tau Zero was written, more is known about the interstellar medium, and he says that any ship powered by a Bussard ramjet would be limited to about 20% of the speed of light, and thus not able to go anywhere near as fast as the ship in Tau Zero did, because the very sparse molecules that exist in interstellar space would be eventually become such a massive headwind that it would outweigh any kind of thrust that the ship might be able to generate. And that is the kind of nerdy detail that I'm here for. So thank you to Tagashi for taking the time to leave a comment, and to all of you that do the same. As always, I do really appreciate it. Let's take a quick look at what was on the channel last week. There was just the one video, which was on Sunday, and that was a wrap up for all 16 science fiction books that I read during August. I shared my thoughts on each one, and we ranked them in reverse order, from least favourite to favourite, and ending on my book of the month. I've cleared the decks. September's book haul is recorded and uploaded, and it's good to go. And just by the way, that copy of Weird Sisters by Terry Pratchett that I found in a charity shop a week or 2 back, that sold. It went for about £30, more like 27 after I've paid for postage, which was about 9 times more than I paid for it, so not a bad return. It's all extra book buying funds for me. But since I've just done a haul video, I haven't been that busy on the book buying front, and so the to be hauled pile is currently just 3 books. Let's take a quick look ahead. On Sunday, there will be that aforementioned book haul, and I think it's quite a doozy. I unbox one order from New Compress, and then I get impatient with another one from PS Publishing, plus there are some charity shop finds, some collection gap filling, and some other serendipitous online finds. The time travel video that I've been banging on about for a few weeks, that's also ready to go, and that will come out on Sunday the 21st of September. As far as themed videos go, next I want to turn my attention back to the 100 Years of Space Opera video that I've been meaning to do since the end of last year, I think. And plus I want to do a couple of career overviews for 1 or 2 authors whose work that I enjoy, and I've now collected, as far as I can tell, everything they've written. And after that, who knows, we'll see. So what will I be reading in the coming week? On audiobook, I'm about a third of the way through Chasm City by Alistair Reynolds. This was not on my planned TBR pile for this month, but I usually get away with one or two extras on audiobook, and I'm enjoying this. I have read it before, but it was a long time ago, and I've mostly forgotten about it, even to the point where we're a third of the way into the book, and we haven't even got to Chasm City yet. I'd forgotten there was a whole load of preliminary action at various other places first, but still, I'm enjoying it. I'm glad to be back in this world. And then in actual book, I'm wading my way quite slowly, I must say, through the Ofuki. I'm never quite sure how to pronounce this, if it's Ofuchi or Ofuki or Opuki hotline. Anyway, this one by John Varley, which I am finding slow going. I'm finding it quite disjointed. I'm not sure how the story hangs together. I have been picking it up and dropping it again and not really reading it consistently, so that's probably not helping. But that's in part because I'm not finding it a very easy read, I think. Still, I'm over halfway through, so I'm sufficiently intrigued by what's happened so far to push on. And if I wasn't, I would find this very easy to DNF, I think. So not my favourite John Varley book by a long way. And then after that, assuming I can wade my way through the rest of it, then I'm going to go with The Execution Channel by Ken MacLeod. And then if I finish that, then I'm going to start dipping into Heliotrope by Justina Robson, which is a short story collection of hers, which allegedly is very good. I won't, like always with the collections, I won't aim to complete it necessarily unless I'm captivated, and I might well be. But I'll certainly dip into it and see what takes my fancy. As always, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, and until next time, bye for now.